Unbelievable truths about medieval childbirth, haunting secrets you'll never sleep through. In a time when the air was thick with mystery and fear, childbirth was a dark ritual cloaked in shadows. Mothers-to-be whispered prayers in dimly lit chambers, their breaths quickening as they faced the unknown. The stench of sweat and blood filled the room, an unholy mingling of life and death. No one escaped the whispers of the midwives, those enigmatic women who held secrets tighter than their hands gripped the roots of ancient trees. As new life kicked within, dread loomed over the mother like a storm cloud, crackling with silent warnings. First, there was the specter of fate. Mothers often believed that their babies were marked for life, precursed by the very hour they came kicking into the world. It was said that the first thing their eyes beheld would shape their futures. This belief made the moment when the child emerged heavy and fraught. What if they see death? What if they see despair? A midwife would hover, her words a soft chant meant to ward off ill omens as the mother writhed and cried, pain blending with hope. Then came the bizarre rituals that made one wonder what exactly was considered safe. Women would nestle themselves under a blanket of iron. It was believed that the metal could protect against evil spirits, but the room erupted in chaos when superstition and pain collided. Screams echoed off the stone walls, each cry a plea for mercy. Spectators crowded around, their faces a blend of horror and fascination, eyes wide as they took in the spectacle. A child would emerge, sometimes with tangled hair, sometimes with a birthmark that others might call a blessing or a curse. But there was a chilling twist. It was whispered in dark corners that some mothers bore children destined to die, an unseen bargain struck long before their first breath. What if that truth slipped through the cracks of the past to stalk the living? Just then, a low murmur swept through the crowd. A woman had survived the impossible, giving birth even after the doctor had laid his grim predictions. But the baby? Oh, the baby. The child was marked, with eyes like deep wells that pulled the life out of anyone foolish enough to gaze too long. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the wild stories spread through village squares and dark taverns, one question rattled in the minds of all who heard: what happened to the babies born with those haunting eyes? Who cared for them, and what dark fate awaited each child as they grew under the specter of ancient curses and secrets? Who would dare reveal the truths hidden behind the veil of night? In the weeks that followed, whispers turned to shouts as rumors spiraled out of control. They called her the cursed mother, her face a pageant of despair and fierce determination. She walked the cobbled streets, a ghost of her former self, dragging the weight of her child's fate behind her like a chain wrapped in iron. Mothers turned their heads away, clutching their babies close, afraid the curse might leap from her to them. She was said to carry a darkness woven into the fabric of her very being. Each evening, by the flickering light of the tavern lanterns, the villagers would question what driven force compelled her to remain in their midst. "What do you want?" they spat. "Why don't you take your child and leave?" But the cursed mother only stared back, her deep well-like eyes burrowing into their souls, sending shivers through the strongest among them. Then one stormy night, when the winds howled like restless spirits and rain smashed against the roof tiles, the cursed mother stepped into the tavern. Her frail silhouette framed by lightning brought hushed silence. The usual chatter died instantly, every person paralyzed as she walked to the fire, her child cradled tightly in her arms. "Listen," she shouted, her voice slicing through the atmosphere thick with dread. "My child does not bring death. He is not cursed, he is a warning. Each of you carrying your children should know the truth." Her gaze swept across the crowd, hungry for understanding but met only with fear. A man, braver than most, shouted back, "You're a liar. We know the legends. The eyes of your child. They've stolen the light from others, the shadows are growing. Do you fear your own reflection?" She bellowed, rage and sorrow blending in her tone. "You want to blame what you don't understand. My son bears the weight of choices made before he was born. He is not the monster. The truth is what eats away at your hearts. But truth has a curious way of revealing itself. The storm howled outside, rattling the small windows, as if the world itself felt the strain of those words. Around them, the energy thickened, the air crackled with tension. Suddenly, the baby stirred, his movements feather-light, yet the cries it let out were more than just innocent wails. They sent a tremor through the room, the tavern fell further into stunned silence. It's just a child. Someone whimpered, trembling, but doubt swirled in the air like the tendrils of fog creeping through the night. They could see something lurking within its gaze, something beyond any child. What if he is more? A woman in the corner ventured, with disbelief tasting bitter on her lips. In that moment, the flickering fire illuminated a flash of something in the baby's eyes. Not just darkness, but a gleam of something unnatural, something hungry. A ripple of fear coursed through the crowd, as their hearts pounded in sync, caught in the web of uncertainty. The cursed mother took a step forward, her voice a whisper. It's not just his eyes that hold promise, or peril. What do you think haunts him still? What pact has tethered us all to this fate? With those words, an unsettling realization gripped the tavern. Maybe the curse was shared. The room, once filled with anger and accusation, grew cold as shadows danced along the walls. What if the truth was worse than the legends they feared? As they gazed at the child, the storm erupted outside, lightning illuminating the jagged lines of tension in every face. The questions loomed, unasked yet heavy, swirling behind the veil of night. Could the cursed mother truly know the truth? Or had she, in revealing her desperation, awakened something darker, a power that could change their fates forever? The storm raged on, but the real tempest was rising within the tavern, brewing uncertainty that threatened to consume them all. What lay ahead would challenge the very essence of their existence. And in this tale of shadows and spirits, the question was no longer just who was cursed, but who might become the next bearer of the truth. The atmosphere inside the tavern crackled like the storm outside. Heartbeats raced, and the shadows danced wildly in the flickering firelight. Fear wrapped around each villager like a thick shroud, stifling any counter-argument or protest. They were caught in her desperate plea, a lifeline tossed amid a sea of uncertainty. The cursed mother shifted her weight, the child's soft whimpers echoing in the silence, breaking through the tension like a pebble dropping into a still pond. You think I chose this? She whispered, voice barely audible over the thunder. You think I put my son in harm's way? No. This was laid upon me and upon you long before any of us drew breath. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A young woman shrank back against the wall, pushing her child closer to her chest. What are you saying? This is madness. She stammered, her voice trembling like the candle flames. Madness or truth? The cursed mother shot back, the sorrow in her eyes igniting with passion. You must understand. This darkness came from decisions made, even sacrifices born before your first steps into this world. A pact made generations ago. Stunned murmurs rose and fell as villagers exchanged glances, fear sewn tightly into their brows. No one spoke, but the thoughts raced amongst them like wildfire. What had they unwittingly inherited? Was the monster they feared this child merely a pawn in a much larger game? Outside, the storm raged, but now it felt as if the brewing struggle within the tavern was the true tempest. Suddenly, a loud crack of thunder echoed through the rafters, causing everyone to jump, and a nearby lantern flickered, threatening to extinguish under the weight of the moment. From the back of the room, an elderly man, long respected within the community, rose slowly. His voice shook, but it carried a weight all its own. The tale spoke of a burden passed from mother to child, a shadow chasing us, tainting our very blood. Is this true? The cursed mother's heart raced. Yes. Each of you carries a fragment of the curse. It's alive within you, responding to fear and denying love. Love for those you protect most. Yet here you stand, trembling before the unknown. What do you mean? One voice shouted from a distant corner. Are we destined to doom our own children? Only if you let fear control you. She snapped back with sudden fury, eyes fierce. You must remember, darkness is not a formless entity. It is us, our regrets, our failures. The child, he is the reflection of all that haunts us. We have a choice. The villagers looked at one another, eyes wide and glistening with confusion and sparks of hope. Could their wrongs be righted? Something in the air shifted. The child's cries grew louder, almost pleading, begging for their understanding, a piercing sound against the heavy backdrop of the storm. Each cry sent chills down their spines, but twang led a thread of yearning within. Listen. The cursed mother leaned forward, urgency in her tone. You think you are saving your children by shunning him. You are sealing their fates. As she spoke, a new force rippled through the tavern, a sensation that felt almost electric. It flickered like the fire, and it pulled at each heart. Would they dare confront their fears, face the legacy built upon silence? Suddenly, a child's hand shot up from the darkness of the back corner. Young and small, a flicker of bravery igniting in her innocent gaze. Why can't we make a new pact? She asked, voice steady yet soft against the storm's fury. One of love instead of fear? Gasps echoed around the room. The question hung heavily in the air, the impossible now threading itself into reality. But the moment was fractured at its core, a storm inside and outside, and the cursed mother, struck with awe, knew that their next step would be both perilous and crucial. Could love truly conquer the darkness that had been bound to them for generations? What would be the consequence of such a pact in a world built on fear? The answer was lingering just beyond their reach, waiting to be discovered. The room fell silent, and the only sound reverberating through the tavern was the relentless pounding of rain against the roof. The cursed mother locked eyes with the brave child who had spoken, her heart swelling with something unfamiliar hope. What you suggest is dangerous, an older villager said, his voice trembling like the candlelight. He looked around, as if waiting for an unseen force to strike him down. What if we summon greater horrors? The cursed mother stepped forward, urgency igniting her movement. You fear the darkness, but what if the darkness fears us? What if the true power lies not in rejecting the child but embracing what he represents? With a fevered intensity, she lifted her voice, every eye in the room fixated on her. By facing it, by claiming it as our own, we can break the chains binding us. We are not victims. We are the weavers of our fate. A low murmur swept through the tavern, uncertainty battling against a flicker of intrigue. The villagers' glances darted between one another, hesitant yet drawn to the possibility she offered. But the howling wind outside seemed to echo their doubts. Lightning sliced the sky, illuminating the faces of the congregation for just a moment, revealing a mixture of fear and desperation. Do you really believe we can rewrite our past? Asked the elderly man who had first spoken, a deep frown creasing his weathered face. We've accepted our cursed life for so long. Yes. The cursed mother interrupted, her voice sharp, cutting through his hesitation. And accepting it keeps us in chains. We must break that cycle and write a new ending, a pact of love that crumbles the walls of fear. Suddenly, the child's cries grew more frantic, a haunting melody of desperation. They filled the air, wrapping around the villagers like a potent spell. The power of those cries seized them, each note resonated with their own buried fears and forgotten dreams. What if we call upon the spirits who cursed us? Someone suggested from the back. Their eyes shined with the thrill of rebellion. What if they answer? Then we bargain with them. The cursed mother proclaimed. We offer the truth of our hearts, our love, our fears, our flaws. We expose our souls. But what does that mean? A voice quavered. Are we ready to lay it all bare? The cursed mother, hands trembling with a mix of resolve and trepidation, answered brazenly, we must face what we've buried and transform that pain into something fierce and beautiful, or we'll live in this shadow forever. Another crack of thunder rattled the tavern, and with it came an unsettling realization among the villagers. Every heartbeat thrummed an instinctive truth: the weight of their silence could crush them. A choice loomed large: step into the echoing vastness of the unknown, or succumb to the shadow that had ruled their lives. Outside, the storm surged with renewed fury, casting shadows that seemed to pulse with life. The flickering lanterns cast playful lights against the walls, illuminating the fear etched on their faces. Will you stand with me? The cursed mother implored, searching each face for an answer. Will you heed the child's call? Love can heal the deepest wounds, but it requires sacrifice. You must be willing to fight together. The villagers hung on her words, torn between fear and the intoxicating allure of possibility. Just then, a sharp, fierce howl echoed from outside, a sound so unnatural it paralyzed the room, freezing each villager in place. The storm intensified, and through the swirling darkness, eyes glinted with an otherworldly fire. What was that? Whispered the young woman, breath hitching in her throat. The child's cry synchronized with her racing heart, a chilling note of foreboding dancing just beneath the surface. The cursed mother felt it too, a dark force rising in response to their challenge, a reminder that their pact would demand something great, something waited in the shadows, eager to reclaim its power. They had yet to understand the depth of the storm that brewed, both inside the tavern and out. Will we face that darkness or be consumed by it? She asked, her heart pounding. A moment hung suspended in the air, the weight of their choice bearing down upon them. With anticipation building, she felt the air shift once more, and a sense of urgency danced within her veins. Could they truly summon the strength to redefine their destiny before it was too late? As the storm outside howled louder, an unsettling thought emerged: if they dared to make a pact of love, what specters would they have to confront? The howl from outside pierced the air like a blade, cutting through the tension in the room. Hearts raced, and breaths quickened. The villagers had thrown open the door to the unknown, but they were about to face its twisted reality. The cursed mother steadied herself, her fingers brushing against the shimmering amulet that hung around her neck, the last remnant of a love that had been devoured by despair. We must choose, she declared. There was fire in her eyes, but a flicker of fear danced there too. If we wait, the shadows will decide for us. A chill swept through the tavern like a ghost passing through the living. The candles flickered, casting long, quivering shadows that seemed to stretch and shudder against the walls. Whispers erupted among the villagers, a chaotic symphony of fear and disbelief. Did you hear that? Someone exclaimed, wide-eyed. It's just the wind. Someone else insisted, their voice cracking. The cursed mother stepped forward, raising her arms. No. It is not just the wind. It is the call of what has been hidden. Her voice, sharp yet soothing, cut through the chaos. It wants us to remember. The spirits demand to be acknowledged. The child's cries fell quiet, leaving only the rhythmic thud of rain against wood. Everyone turned to the small figure on the floor, their breaths held tightly in their chests, waiting for a revelation. Then it happened. The child's eyes widened, and they suddenly pointed toward the door. They are coming. The simple utterance sent shivers down everyone's spine. Thunder rolled like an angry beast outside, each rumble resonating through the floorboards. With it came the heavy scent of earth and rain, mixing with something darker, something rotten. Rita, the baker's wife, turned pale, her lips trembling. What does it want? She breathed out, racing thoughts colliding in her mind. Only what we refuse to face, the cursed mother responded. Our fears, our broken dreams. They've been waiting for us to be brave. The room descended into silence, the kind that thickened the air, weighing heavily on shoulders. Determination crept into the villagers' minds, igniting something deep inside. Then let us face it. A young man shouted, his voice cracking but bold. Let us call upon them. Spurred by his bravado, a chorus began to rise. Yes. We are more than our chains. We are more than our fears. The villagers stood, galvanizing around the cursed mother, their eyes alight with a blend of terror and fierce hope. Together, the cursed mother urged. Let us weave this tale as one. As the storm howled louder, the villagers joined hands, forming a circle. The cursed mother stood at the center, her heart pounding in rhythm with the tempest raging outside. Lightning illuminated their faces, raw emotion etched into every line. Spirits of the past, she cried, her voice rising, trembling but undeniable. We seek to rewrite our story. We call upon you. At that moment, a crash of thunder resonated, drowning out her words, and the door to the tavern rattled violently, as if something were trying to force its way in. The wooden frame creaked ominously, and a heavy stillness fell over them. "What if they don't want to listen?" whispered one of the villagers, their face pale, eyes darting for an escape. "Then we must prove ourselves," spat another, fury igniting in their voice. With courage swelling, they shouted into the dark night, "We refuse to be afraid. Show yourselves." The world seemed to hold its breath. The air thickened, electric with tension. Outside, the shadows danced, but something emerged, something that flickered with the light of recognition yet cloaked in a shroud of dread. As the first figures appeared in the doorway, the cursed mother felt a chill seize her heart. These were not just specters, they were memories, the remnants of battles fought long ago. They carried sorrow, pain, and longing, but also a flicker of love. "Now we shall face the truth," she mustered, willing herself to remain steadfast. What awaited them could either liberate or doom them. A tremor echoed through the ground, shaking the very core of their resolve. The storm raged on, and as the door swung open wider, shadows crept across the floor, ready to expose their deepest horrors. But could the villagers summon the strength to confront the echoes of their past, or would they be swallowed whole by the darkness they dared to invoke? The door swung open with a violent gust of wind, filling the tavern with a whirlwind of shadows. Figures stepped through, their forms flickering like candle flames caught in a draught. Each apparition wore the faces of lost loved ones, twisted by grief and anger. The crowd gasped as recognition sent ripples of shock through the room. "Mama?" A voice trembled, small yet loud enough to cut through the murmur of disbelief. The child crouched low, wide eyes locked on a shadowy silhouette that resembled their mother, long thought gone. "Don't. Stay back," the cursed mother yelled, arms outstretched as if to shield the child from the gathering storm of memories. "These aren't just visions, they're the threads of our past, knitted together with regret." The specters paused, their hollow eyes searching the faces of the living, their mouths moving silently, echoing the regrets and heartaches of their lives. A low moan echoed through the air, reverberating against the wooden walls. "What do you want from us?" a villager shouted, voice trembling. "Forgiveness." The specter of a man, weathered and worn, stepped forward, his voice raw like the earth after a heavy rain. "You must face the burdens you have buried deep within your hearts. We are not here to harm you, but to remind you of the weight you carry." The tumult of shadows thickened, swirling together until they formed a storm of anguish, pushing against the villager's resolve. Patrick, the butcher, clenched his fists, sweat glistening on his forehead. "No. We want to play this game. You haunt us with our past, but we're done with it." The shadows recoiled, as if Patrick's courage struck a chord within them. An unexpected silence fell, deep and suffocating. While some shifted uncomfortably, others felt emboldened. "That's it, Patrick," the cursed mother cried, hope sparking in her chest. "We must claim our story. We cannot let fear bind us to the ghosts of yesterday." But just as the villagers began to rally, a horrid howl pierced through the tavern. It seemed to come from nowhere, a howl that resonated with ancient power. It was a sound that twisted their insides, a warning that told them they were perilously close to a decision that would change everything. "We're not afraid," another villager yelled, but doubt snaked through the crowd, an insidious whisper that tapped into their fears. "What if we fail? What if they take us too?" The child, still trembling, broke the silence. "Mommy, I want to go home." The fragile plea hung in the air, calling forth the most primal instinct to protect. With a sudden flare, the cursed mother felt the energy within her surge. "Then let us not turn our backs," she shouted, the amulet glowing brightly against her heart. "Face the truth together. Bring the love we once lost." As words fell from her lips, the figures shifted, a palpable tension filling the room. Flickers of light enveloped the spirits, revealing scars of battle and love lost. As they merged with the energy swirling around them, the glow grew brighter, illuminating the anxious faces of the villagers. They stepped forward, driven by the hope that perhaps a bridge could be built between memory and mission, but just as they thought they could hold hands and form a new bond, the howling intensified, crashing against the tavern like a vengeful wave. Shadows convulsed, twisting violently, and the air crackled with the presence of something darker, something that clawed at their very souls. "No?" the village elder screamed, staggering back. "We are not ready." The cursed mother's heart sank as she saw the shadows morph, forming into grotesque reflections of their inner torment, a dark mirror of their regrets. "Stand strong!" she cried desperately, meeting the gaze of each villager. "We can't let them consume us." But before they could respond, a shadow lunged forward, breaking through the barrier. Panic erupted in the room. With a heart-stopping silence, the villagers waited, heartbeats racing, breaths shallow. The flickering flame of hope still pulsed within them, but could it withstand the gathering storm? What would happen when their intertwined fates collided with the unrelenting darkness? The air around them grew thick, electric with anticipation. The shadow strained against its murky form, swelling forth like a tidal wave crashing onto a frail shore. The cursed mother felt her heart pound against her chest. This was no simple apparition, but a darkness painted with every sorrow they had ever refused to confront. "Get back!" Patrick roared, stepping forward, arms shielded as if to push the encroaching swarm away. His voice broke through the chaos, momentarily grounding them. But the momentum shifted. One by one, the villagers stepped back, fear crackling in the air around them. Each face reflected the ghosts of despair they had avoided for so long. The child whimpered quietly, tears streaming down their face, a mirror to the sorrow that had wrapped around them all. "Mommy!" They clung tightly to the cursed mother, who knelt beside them, heart heavy. "You have to trust me," she said softly, squeezing the child's hand. "We need to face them together. They only want to be heard." But a figure rushed by, eyes wide with panic. "They are not just memories. They are monsters." A woman shrieked as she stumbled against the bar, knocking over tankards. The clatter echoed ominously, heightening tension as every villager felt the tremor of doubt seep into their bones. Then, as if to answer the woman's fear, the shadow let out an unholy scream that jerked through the tavern, freezing everyone in their tracks. It was a sound that echoed inside their minds, reminding them of every regret held tightly behind locked doors. "We need to unite!" shouted the elder, though his voice quivered. "We cannot let them divide us." He glanced desperately at the cursed mother, who nodded, understanding the weight of his words. In that moment, something shifted. The village, with all its imperfections and burdens, became a single pulse of determination. The cursed mother rose, her amulet glowing fiercely as she called out, "Together! Release the past!" As if responding to her rallying cry, the shadows twisted and flared. The figures howled, caught between the realm of the living and the forgotten memories that birthed them. The air crackled with a fierce energy, yet the villagers stood firm, each breath steadying their resolve. In this moment of unity, a truth began to resonate within their hearts. Memories didn't have to bind them. They could embrace the pain and transform it. The light from the amulet flared, casting a warm glow that reached into the darkest corners of the tavern, illuminating the twisted faces of despair until they softened into expressions of longing. But the howling grew louder, worse. A voice seeped through it, dark and twisted. "You think you can save yourselves? I hold your dark past. Your shackles." Fear slithered back into the hearts of the villagers, but the cursed mother remained. "Not if we stand together," she shouted over the din, her voice steady and fierce. For a brief moment, something like hope flickered in the air, buoying their spirits. The shadows wavered, recoiling as if sensing a change. But then, with unrestrained wrath, the darkness surrounded them, a vortex of pain and fury. The tavern walls trembled as the collective despair coalesced, forming a massive figure, towering and imposing. It loomed over them, eyes burning like embers, a harbinger of the truth they feared most. "Face me," it boomed, voice reverberating through their bones. "Face what you truly are." The atmosphere crackled with impending doom as the villagers quaked under its weight. But within the cursed mother's heart, a seed of courage sprouted. They had come too far to turn back now. "Together!" she yelled again, and the moment charged with intensity. But faced with this living embodiment of their past, was their unity strong enough to break free? A building storm of darkness gathered above, threatening to consume them all. The flickering flame of hope grew dim, teetering on the edge of despair's uncertain eyes filled with tears of fear. Would they confront this monstrous truth, or would they succumb to the shadows that had haunted them for far too long? The figure loomed larger, shadows thickening like a storm gathering strength. Its fiery eyes bore into each villager, stoking the fear that had long taken root in their hearts. The cursed mother could feel the deep-seated panic in the room, a palpable weight that threatened to collapse under the enormity of the entity before them. "Your anguish is a chain," it bellowed, voice like gravel grinding against stone. "You think to break free? Your pain is your legacy." The cursed mother clenched her fists, determination hardening her resolve. "You are wrong," she shouted, summoning every last ounce of courage from the pit of her soul. "We are not defined by our pain. We are the choices we make." In that moment, she felt the warmth of the child's small hand in hers, igniting something fierce inside her. The villagers exchanged cautious glances, a flicker of shared defiance sparking in their eyes. They had carried the burden of their past for too long. Patrick surged forward, stepping bravely beside her, breathing through the fear engulfing him. "We don't need to run anymore. Let us not let these shadows decide our future." The darkness seemed to swirl resentfully at their boldness, hissing with discontent, but the light from the amulet flickered brighter. The air thickened, and for an instant, the shadows hesitated, as if preparing to retreat. The cursed mother saw it, a glimmer of doubt reflecting off the monster's twisted visage. She seized the moment. "Let each person here share their truth. Let the darkness hear your voice." One by one, villagers stepped forward, their quaking legs beneath them. An elderly man, voice trembling but steady, broke the silence. "I am haunted by the loss of my son," he cried, tears streaming down his weathered face. "I chose to stay silent. No more." A young woman followed, her expression fierce despite the fear. "My heart has been heavy with regret, but I will no longer cower. I choose to remember him with love." Eager to join, voices surged like a wave, painful, raw, and beautiful as they each offered fragments of their anguish. The tavern filled with an echoing cacophony of vulnerability. They opened their hearts, exposing their suffering like a wound, transforming their agony into strength. Feeding off this warmth, the cursed mother held her amulet high, grateful for each confession. It glowed brighter, pushing back the shadows with each spoken truth. The massive figure before them recoiled, anger flickering across its spectral features. "Fools!" it snarled. "You cannot deny your nature. You are bound by your sorrow." But with each truth shared, they chipped away at the chains that had held them captive for too long. The monster bellowed, the sound growing more frantic as the villagers united. "You are weak. Your pain feeds me." "No," Patrick shouted, raising his fist defiantly. "Our strength grows from this pain. You have no power over us." The air hummed with electric tension, the shadows shrieking and writhing as they began to break under the strain of shared resilience. The cursed mother felt the tide shifting, the darkness faltering. Could they really do this? Could they shatter the hold that had imprisoned them? But then, just as victory seemed within their grasp, the figure gathered itself, its form shifting violently. "You underestimate the power of despair," it hissed, and with a deep, resonating roar, it charged toward them, a massive wave of darkness. "Brace yourselves," the older man cried, fear and bravery interlacing. The cursed mother summoned the deepest strength from their unity, but would it be enough to face this final surge of their greatest fears? Could they stand firm against the onslaught of shadows that threatened to drown them all? In that moment, the battle hung delicately in the balance, suspended between hope and despair. Would they conquer their past, or succumb to the very darkness they sought to banish? The darkness surged toward them, a thick tide of despair that seemed to swallow the very light in the room. The cursed mother stood her ground, the amulet in her hand pulsing like a heartbeat. Each pulse reminded her of the hope ignited by their truths. They couldn't falter now. "Together," she shouted, her voice thick with determination. "We are stronger together." As the shadowy wave crashed toward them, the village held its collective breath. Each villager clasped hands, a chain of warm bodies, willing to face the terror. The shadows shrieked, a sound like dry leaves in a storm, screeching against the truth the villagers had unearthed. Patrick's grip tightened around the cursed mother's hand. "We won't let it win," he cried, his voice rising above the chaos. The intensity in his eyes reflected an unwavering belief that lit a spark inside the group. The amulet's light flared brighter, casting flickering rays that cut through the dense fog. Each truth shared created a barrier that pushed against the darkness. The power of their voices conjured a shield, a web of light woven from their collective courage. The cursed mother could feel it. The dark figure was weakening, rattled by the raw emotions laid bare. "Speak. Let it hear you," she urged. A surge of voices erupted anew, vivid confessions piercing through the fear. "I am afraid," a young man admitted, his hands shaking. "But today, I choose to fight." "I regret the choices I've made," another woman cried, "but I will not let my past dictate me anymore." The energy shifted, resonating in the space around them, creating waves of strength that pushed back against the encroaching void. The cursed mother felt a rush, a tide of liberation. The shadows writhed, now a trapped beast feeling the tightening noose of their shared resolve, but then, with a roar that rattled the very bones of the tavern, the creature lunged. The shadows twisted violently, merging into a colossal mass that enveloped the villagers in chilling dread. "Your truths are whispers in a storm. You cannot fight despair," it roared, battering against their unified light. "It's not over," the elderly man shouted, his knuckles white as he held onto the hand of another beside him. "We are more than our fears." Heaviness weighed on the air, like an impending storm filled with dark clouds ready to burst. The shadows seemed to dissolve and reform, sending jagged tendrils toward the villagers, grasping and reaching. "Protect each other," the cursed mother cried. "Heed each other's voices." Those words echoed in their hearts, igniting a desperation to shield one another. They pushed against the darkness, voices rising like an anthem, drowning out the choking fear. But just as it seemed they would break free, shadows coiled around the amulet, chilling fingers snaking toward it. The light dimmed for the briefest moment, and the cursed mother felt the weight of dread settle heavily on her chest. Would they be lost when they were so close to victory? With an intensity born from sheer will, she shouted again, "We are not defined by you." The amulet glowed, a furious blaze of light, and pushed back against the darkness, desperately pressing inward. The room pulsated, vibrating with their united heartbeats, and behind her, the faces of the villagers burned with fierce determination. But in the dimmed light, something stirred deeper within the shadows, a flicker of movement they could not ignore. "Something isn't finished yet." A whisper curled around them, cold and chilling, sending a shiver down the cursed mother's spine. Was another secret lurking in that darkness, one more threatening than every anguish they had faced? As the shadows lunged once more, darker and more threatening than ever, she realized, what if this creature was only the beginning? The shadows surged and twisted, a tempest threatening to engulf them whole. The cursed mother stood tall, amulet pulsing with fiery light reflective of their shared courage. She could see it, fear gripping the villagers, shaking their resolve. But beneath that fear lay something stronger, a flicker of defiance that could steer them through the maelstrom. With each pulse of the amulet, the light brightened, casting long shadows into corners where they had long lurked. "Your pain is not your power," she cried, her voice rising above the chaos, galvanizing the villagers around her. "Together, we can break free from these chains." As the darkness thrashed and roared in anger, the young woman spoke up, her voice quavering but clear. "We refuse to let you prosper on our pain. We choose love." Around her, heads began to nod, emboldened by her courage. One by one, they joined the chorus of defiance. "We choose hope," shouted Patrick, raising his fists in solidarity. With each declaration, the shadows recoiled. This was their moment, the sunset of a lingering nightmare. The storm outside roared louder, as if challenging them, but the villagers' voices grew stronger. The cursed mother glanced around at the faces of her fellow villagers, all caught in the storm of emotion, their fears twisting and spiraling, wrapped tight in a haze of optimism slowly unfolding. Suddenly, the shadows convulsed, shifting and reshaping into grotesque forms of those long-gone relatives and friends clinging to their pain. "You cannot escape us," they howled, voices haunting with impending doom. You owe us your regret is the blood running through your veins. Regret is not a bond. Came another voice, strong and unwavering. It was the elderly man again, standing straight-backed, illuminating the truth. We are not mere vessels of our past. We forge our paths with every choice we make. The howling intensified, a feral blend of anger and despair, but so did their courage. The villagers began to weave a tapestry of light, that amulet at the center thrumming with energy, each heart connected, each soul resonating with the essence of their declaration: freedom through acceptance, love through vulnerability. I am no longer a prisoner of these tales, the cursed mother shouted. We stand in the light of our truths, no longer shackled by fear. We are alive. Her declaration echoed, resonating deeper. The darkness swirled chaotically, as if grappling for control. The cursed mother held out the amulet high, its radiance blinding, cutting through the twisting shadows like a blade. You hold nothing over us anymore. The breathless silence that followed was charged, almost electric. A rippling wave of energy pulsed through the villagers, invigorating them with newfound strength. The shadows twisted violently, shrinking back. They were being weakened. Could they really do this? Let go of your pain, shouted another voice, a gnarled hand clasped around a mug, voice a tremor but filled with fire. Let the shadows fade away. The amulet released a shockwave of brilliant light, illuminating the tavern with an intensity that bled warmth into their hearts. The shadows howled in protest, writhing desperately against the light that enveloped them. With a final scream, the darkness began to disintegrate, echoing with the anguish of centuries lost. And then, there was silence. The air shifted, light filtering through where shadows once clung. The cursed mother turned, needing to see the villagers' faces as they emerged from the chaos. Relief washed over them, unshackled for the first time in generations. For they had faced the darkness that lay hidden within them and collectively broke its hold. The tavern glimmered with hope, the lantern shining almost as brightly as the amulet that still glowed faintly in her palm. The villagers stepped closer, hands clasped together, breathing in the heavy air of liberation reborn from the ashes of despair. The cursed mother gazed into the eyes of her child, still cradled close. You are not cursed, she whispered to the tiny face, warmth filling the space between them. You are hope personified. As the storm subsided outside, the villagers stepped into the cool, fresh air, leaving the remnants of their fears behind. They linked arms, forging a new path of solidarity and love against the backdrop of a sun breaking through the clouds. And as they walked forward, leaving the past where it belonged, the cursed mother smiled, a renewed spirit blooming in her chest. They had changed the story, had rewritten the script of fear into one of unwavering strength. As the sun sank low, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and lavender, they took a collective breath, ready to embrace this new beginning together. Love would now be their legacy, guiding their steps into the unknown. Now, a journey awaited them, one filled with challenges and triumphs, but they were no longer shackled by the darkness. They were the light summoning their own destiny. This was just the beginning. You need to subscribe now so you never miss out on the next exclusive story. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and don't wait even one more second to share this powerful ending with at least 5 friends who need to see it. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories, because your voice matters in this community.